you to our medical experts. This is such an important part of our agenda as we continue to track this in our methodical and efficient process that we've been conducting now since the beginning of this recovery process. So with that, it's my pleasure to turn over now to Tim Giuliani for our next set of presentations. Tim?
Yes, thanks, George. We're actually going to hear a number of presentations now, all related to the reopening of theme parks. And the first presentation that we're going to hear is from SeaWorld, which will be followed by Walt Disney World. And then we'll hear from the Director of Orange County Planning, Environmental and Development Services Department. And then we will open up for questions from the members of the task.
Busch Gardens down in Tampa and in Virginia. And we have other SeaWorld parks in Texas and San Diego. We also have the Sesame Place brand up in Pennsylvania and a handful of other parks, 12 parks across 5 states. We're here today to just talk about the Orlando parks. And with me is Kyle Miller, who runs our Orlando parks, the 3 parks here, SeaWorld, Discovery Cove, and Aquatica. And then Brad Gilmore, who's on the task force, who's one of our operations leaders here in Orlando as well. I just want to start out by saying thank you to the committee, to Mayor Demings, to everyone for allowing us the opportunity to be here today and to present our plans for getting the parks open. This is certainly an exciting time for all of us. We had a really good visit yesterday with the public health officials here in Orlando, and they were able to kind of see firsthand some of the things I'm going to talk about today. We'll go through our different protocols. We'll talk about different things we're going to be doing. I'll be a little more summarized, but they did see everything firsthand yesterday, and it was a really collaborative and good visit with everyone. Before we get to the actual presentation, though, I want to talk a little bit about the dates. So we are targeting to open our parks on June 10th for an employee appreciation night, and then we would open to the public on June 11th. So we can go forward to the next slide and just talk a little bit about all the things we're going to be doing to enhance our park operations at reopening. Certainly, as I mentioned, we have a long history here in Orlando. SeaWorld opened in the early 1970s, so we've been operating our parks for over 45 years here, our SeaWorld park for over 45 years here in Orlando. And we've always had safety as a top priority, obviously. And that still holds true today. What we'll talk about here is just some enhanced safety measures that we're going to take to provide an even more safe environment and some of the specific protocols to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. So in these enhancements are going to be communicated very comprehensively to guests before arrival and when they get to our parks as well. We'll have some videos on our website, and then we'll have a lot of signage as people come into the parks. And we've broken these down into really some kind of overall park enhancements and then some specific enhancements to key operational areas. And I'll walk through each of these. So the overall park enhancements really have to do with face coverings, physical distancing, cleaning and sanitation, temperature screening, our work and sick policies, and then enhanced COVID-19 training. And then we'll have enhancements, like I said, to key operational areas, mainly around guest arrival and ticketing, our restaurants, our retail shops, our animal exhibits and interactions, and in our public spaces like our venues, our rides and attractions, our parades and character meet and greets, and in our employee facilities, and in our water park facilities. And really, as I mentioned, health and well-being has always been a top priority of ours. We're very confident as longtime operators of parks in our ability to execute on this plan, and we'll manage the capacity accordingly so that we can always have safety as a forefront of what we want to do. So if we go forward to the next slide, provide a little more detail on some of the overall park enhancements. So specifically with face coverings, we will require face coverings for our employees and our guests. And for those guests who don't have a face covering, we'll provide one for them. And we'll have ample signage throughout the park reminding them, everyone, of the importance of the face coverings. Our second area of focus will be on physical distancing. So we will have through the use of signage and markings, create physical distancing throughout the park. And this will be very clearly outlined. We'll also have contactless payment systems in place, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll have plexiglass utilized in a number of areas too, where we need to create a little bit of a separation between our employees and guests. The third area is cleaning and sanitation. Certainly as longtime operators, our parks have always been clean, and we'll just be that much more rigorous about the cleaning process. So you'll see increased cleaning and sanitation. You'll see a lot of increased hand sanitation stations throughout the park. Our fourth area is temperature screening. So we will require that our guests and our employees all pass a temperature screening before they will be allowed into the park. As far as the fifth area, our work and sick policies, we will encourage our employees who aren't feeling well, who are sick, to obviously not come to work. Or if they start to not feel well at work, we would ask them to go home. So we'll reinforce that training around that. And that really leads me to the sixth key point here is the training. We'll have enhanced training for all of our ambassadors around the COVID-19 protocols that we have put in place. So moving forward to some specific enhancements to key operational areas, really starting with guest arrivals and ticketing. There'll be a lot of signage as you drive into the park. Eventually, as you make your way towards the ticketing area and ultimately the turnstiles, our turnstiles, you'll be able to walk up with your season pass or your ticket and actually have it scanned by an attendant who will be behind plexiglass. We can scan right through the plexiglass to your ticket, and you'll be allowed access into the park. There will be no need for any sort of finger scanning or anything like that. So it would be a very contactless entry process into the park. Within our restaurants, we will have layout. We'll create physical distancing in our restaurants. We will modify some of our service delivery as well to be more prepackaged and items that we give to you, as opposed to a guest taking an item or a buffet or anything like that. And we'll, again, as I mentioned, we'll have the ability to, when you're ready to check out, provide like a Google Pay or an Apple Pay, and you'll be able to very quickly, without any sort of contact, check out from the restaurant. We'll have a similar setup in our retail shops. There we'll actually have dedicated entryways into our stores and then dedicated exits as well. And within the store, we'll have distance markers and create distancing within the shops. And again, if you purchase something, when you do, you'll be able to go up to the register. The employee will be able to scan the purchase through the plexiglass, and you'll be able to check out. And we will actually provide your own bag or wrapping, whatever you would like, to take your gift or souvenir home. So again, you're the one doing the majority of the touching there. In our animal exhibits and interactions, everyone certainly enjoys getting to see the great collection of animals we have here in Orlando parks. And we will create social distancing in those viewing areas. We'll have that clearly marked. We'll especially pay close attention to sanitizing those handrails and things like that people lean up against to view our animals. And we'll have some other modifications and changes as are outlined here on the slide. So going forward to the next slide, within our public spaces, so throughout the park and then in our show and presentation venues, we will have enhanced cleaning in our show venues and presentation venues. We'll create staggered seating so that people can have the appropriate distancing. And then after those shows or presentations, we will have enhanced cleaning processes in those areas as well. For our rides and attractions, it'll be very, very similar. Social distancing or physical distancing in the queues. We will actually have hand sanitizer as you get on the ride, hand sanitizer as you get off the ride. So we're going to try to make that as clean as possible. And we'll have enhanced cleaning throughout the day on a number of our rides and attractions. On our parades and meet and greets. Certainly here in Orlando, we have the Sesame Street area, which is really popular with children and great characters to get your photo with. We will still be able to do some of that, but we'll do it at a safe distance with physical distancing, so that everyone is safe, but can still have a fun day and see their favorite characters. In our employee facilities, we will treat them much the same as we're treating the rest of the park. They will be cleaned, sanitized. We'll have signage throughout, reminding our employees of all the new protocols we have in place and making sure that they are as safe as can be. On the next slide, just to talk a little bit about our water park attractions and related facilities. So our parks like Aquatica and Discovery Cove, we certainly take water quality very seriously, and we treat our water appropriately. And as we know here on the slide, according to the CDC, there is no evidence that COVID-19 can spread to people through the use of water in pools. But we nonetheless will increase the cleaning and sanitation at high contact surfaces, including rides and rafts and tubes and life vests. We'll also limit capacity and create physical distancing in these locations as well. An example would also be we'll spread lounge chairs so people can still have a great experience, but it'll be spaced appropriately. If you've ever been to our Discovery Cove Park, you know that park lends itself nicely to being able to kind of space out nicely and have some privacy and some great time as a family or with friends or whatever it may be. So the next few slides here are just some examples of the signage you're going to see throughout the park. As on our tour yesterday, folks got to see a number of these examples. I think these are good reminders. You'll see on here some of the directional signage, some of the entrance signs, the exit signs, the reminders about face coverings and wash your hands, that type of thing. So we'll have this signage up throughout our park, and then obviously enhanced training with our employees as well to ensure guests are aware of everything, all these new protocols. And I'll just wrap up by saying, obviously these are adaptive protocols and guidelines. We'll continue to stay close to the task force and our community health leaders and the CDC and others. And as things evolve or procedures change, protocols become revised or improved, we'll certainly adapt accordingly. So with that, I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself, Kyle, and Brad. We're really excited to be here today. We're excited to bring back our guests. We're excited to bring back our employees. And we want to get these 3 parks open. And so we thank you again for the opportunity to be here, and we'll stop and see if anyone has any questions.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. And we are actually going to move straight into the second presentation, and we'll save questions for the end. So at this time, I want to recognize Walt Disney World, and presenting on their behalf is Jim McPhee, Senior Vice President of Operations. And Jim, you're recognized.
Thank you, Tim, and good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be with you all today. I'd be remiss not to start off with a very sincere thank you to all of you for your leadership of our Central Florida community throughout these challenging months. Yesterday morning, we had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Demings and his staff to preview our proposed reopening plans for our theme parks at the Walt Disney World Resort. And we're here to share all of that and our protocols with you this morning. I'll take you through our reopening schedule for the ramp up of our theme parks, our approach to the implementation of our health and safety protocols, and the foundation of these efforts, which are established through our focus on education, communication, and engagement. Let me start off with our opening dates. Our plans call for a phased reopening of our theme parks, beginning with the Magic Kingdom and Disney's Animal Kingdom on Saturday, July 11th. Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios will open on Wednesday, July 15th. We believe our reopening proposal for our property reflects a very thoughtful, methodical, and phased approach, and we've incorporated all of the reopening protocols throughout our guest experience and our cast experience. We will deploy a series of soft opening tactics for select audiences several days prior to our July 11th with cast previews and affinity soft opening preview days. This will reflect a thoughtful ramp up in our attendance strategy and allow us to launch, learn, and adjust along the way. We've also established significant limits on our overall attendance for each park and the locations within, along with many enhancements to our safety protocols. We will be also managing our overall attendance demand through a new theme park reservation system that will require our guests to obtain a reservation for park entry in advance. We'll share more details about this component in the near future. All right, I'd like to now take you through our approach to our health and safety protocols. Our overarching objective is to establish and implement enhanced safety protocols for responsible reopening of our theme parks. We're focused on 5 distinct safety protocols that together will help us achieve this objective. I'll introduce these at a high level, and we will go a bit deeper on the subsequent page. Start on the left, enhanced protective measures. We are implementing increased measures to help reduce the spread of the virus through a layered approach. Examples of these measures include required face coverings for all guests and our cast members, more frequent hand washing stations and hand sanitizer stations, and barriers to facilitate physical distancing. Each of these measures, when aligned and put together, will enhance the safety of our property. From a physical distancing perspective, we are implementing significant reductions in overall capacity, enabling physical distancing throughout the parks. Also, within attractions, retail, and food and beverage locations, we will reduce capacity and implement practices to increase physical distancing. All of these steps will be facilitated by our incredible cast and various physical signage throughout the property, communicating the need for this enhanced physical distancing. From a cleaning and sanitation perspective, building on our existing standards of cleaning, we will implement more frequent cleaning protocols, both on stage for our guests and in our backstage areas for our cast members. From a temperature and health screening perspective, for our guests, we will conduct temperature screening similar to how it has been implemented at Disney Springs. And for our cast, in addition to at-home temperature checks and health assessments, we will also conduct temperature checks on site. Limited contact enhancements is another critical area of focus for us, and we are reviewing cast and guest interactions that have, in the past, required close proximity. We're also reviewing experiences that result in guests or cast touching the same surfaces repeatedly. We're working to reduce the number of such interactions and experiences to minimize contact points. Examples of these enhancements include increased mobile food ordering options, encouraging cashless transactions, and temporarily pausing character meet and greet and play areas. Key elements that support all of these efforts will be our strong focus on education, communication, and engagement, both with our guests and our cast members. We will train our cast to operate in this new environment and familiarize our guests with our new policies and practices so they can learn what to expect before they arrive. We'll have signs and online materials communicating our enhanced safety measures, and as always, our exceptional cast members will engage with our guests to make the experience as real and as magical as possible. On this next board, we'll go just a bit deeper on each of the tactics that we'll be deploying. I won't cover every bullet point here, but I'll share additional key themes within each, starting with enhanced protective measures. As I mentioned, guest and cast members will be required to wear face coverings. We are deploying increased numerous hand washing and sanitation stations for guests and cast members on stage and backstage, with visual reminders emphasizing frequency and importance. We're also increasing our use of plexiglass barriers at points of sales in retail and food and beverage areas where appropriate distancing cannot be maintained. Physical distancing, we're applying appropriate physical distancing requirements and reminding cast and guests to maintain those distance. I made mention earlier to the fact that in managing our theme park demand, we will implement a pre-arrival theme park reservation system. We will significantly reduce the overall capacity of our parks and the facilities within. This includes reducing capacity on attractions and restaurants and retail stores, and on our various modes of transportation, which plays a very important role in connecting our experiences together. We will temporarily suspend parades, fireworks, and other events that create crowds. For our cast, We're making changes in the environment of our back of house areas and break rooms, and we have modifications to our facilities to enable physical distancing, whether on lunch or break or traveling to and from various work locations. As I mentioned, with cleaning and sanitation, we have a multi-tiered approach to enhance our cleaning and sanitation with frequent increased cleaning across high touch, high location surface areas, on stage and backstage. Again, temperature screening for our guests will be performed at the main entrance arrival points of our theme parks for arriving guests. For our cast members, in addition to at-home temperature checks and health assessments, we will conduct on-site temperature checks as well. Again, on limited contact enhancements, we're also very focused on limiting the number of contacts our guests and cast members must have in the parks. In addition to further leveraging our magic bands for contactless payment, we'll expand our focus on other contactless payment systems. We'll also enable and encourage a cashless environment and significantly expand our existing mobile order platform at our restaurants. We are closing several of our higher touch experiences, again, including character meet and greets, high touch areas such as playgrounds and water effects that may draw gatherings that may compromise physical distancing. Our key focus here as it relates to health and safety protocols is around education, communication, and engagement. We believe a critical aspect of all of these new protocols is the development of strategies and tactics that are focused on education, communication, and engagement. Relating to education, we are developing a series of know before you go communication vehicles, and our objective is to reinforce our health and safety messages to guests before they arrive on our property, so they are aware and prepared for the new environment. Whether through the initial booking of their vacation on our website, through follow-up communication throughout their journey here, or through the My Disney Experience mobile app, we want to make this important information available to guests before they arrive. Communication throughout is a continual thread that will pull through every aspect of our vacation experience. Ongoing communication is critical, and we'll reinforce this messaging throughout. When our guests arrive, they'll be reminded of our safety protocols as they enter our property and at various key points in our parks to reinforce these messages. These protocols will be present and visible throughout our onstage and backstage areas. Engagement is key, and our cast members have always played a key role in the guest experience, and this will be no different when we reopen. We want our cast members to be focused on their own well-being and that of our guests. In particular, our cast members will be trained to positively encourage guests to practice the correct behaviors and demonstrate them themselves. In addition to those performing existing roles throughout the experience, we're developing a social distance squad, a dedicated team of highly energetic and informative cast members who are committed to engaging and inspiring our guests to follow the appropriate guidelines. These social distancing squad cast members were introduced with the opening of Disney Springs and have been a huge hit for our guests and very effective in emphasizing the importance of these elements. We'll deploy dedicated teams in each of our theme parks overall. I'll walk you through just a couple visuals on the types of signage that we'll be using in terms of packaging throughout our onstage and backstage areas. The first is a focus on temperature screening and entrance signage. Upon arrival, our guests will see specific signage reinforcing the enhanced safety and health messages they've heard throughout, including the requirements for entry. From a general safety signage, once inside, our guests will see additional messaging and reminders of the guidelines we expect our guests and cast members to practice. These will be deployed at all locations, retail, food and beverage, attractions, and other places where we expect lines could develop to assist guests in staying appropriately distanced. And then finally, the messaging and the graphics and the signage on physical distance is very, very important. We'll deploy these at all locations in all areas where there is a potential wait and communicate extensively throughout the resort that our social distancing, physical distancing standards are clear. Each of our entry points, each of our queue lines will have these entry signages marked throughout the queue lines and whatnot to ensure that guests have a clear understanding of the distances that we're asking them to maintain throughout their experience while here. So, as you all might imagine, there's been a great deal of work put in to get the Walt Disney World Resort and our cast members ready to reopen in this new environment for our July 11th opening. We've rethought many aspects of our operation to help enhance safety and provide a great guest experience. We're now implementing this work and proceeding with training and development so our cast are ready for the road ahead, and soon we will be welcoming our guests back. We believe this thoughtful, methodical, and phased ramp-up strategy for our property is the right path. Together, we hope everyone will do their part to bring the magic of Walt Disney World back into this new environment. Thank you very much for your time today. I'll turn it back over to you, Tim or George.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jim, for your presentation. Before we move into questions,